Hi everyone, it's Swan Primary School. It's Adam here from Real Schools, and this is just a quick follow-up video from our professional learning session that we had together around restorative practices. And the reason for the video, I guess, is just so that at some period of time, whether it's a week or whether it's a month, a term, a semester down the track, you can have a bit of a refresher and a bit of a reminder about what those important concepts are about not only what restorative practices is, but what those commitments are that you've made to getting the momentum going in your school. And that momentum's a really important thing, and that's why I hassled you for a 15-second video commitment as you left the room on the day. And so it's really important for us today to be able to have a quick look at what it is that we learned together. And if I were to break the day into those three sort of compartments, I would say that the first part of the day is really about putting our restorative goggles on. So it's about being able to understand what the intention and the purpose is behind the restorative framework, and to get those big messages to top of mind about what we're trying to achieve when we are working through conflict and tension by focusing on harm and relationships. And they are in fact those big tenets of restorative practices, those harm and relationships. So whenever we are working through a difficulty with students, remembering that our focus and our intention needs to be very much around the idea of students being accountable to relationships by being able to take action that resolves or restores the harm. And if we can do that, then most of the time you'll manage to get your practice under that restorative umbrella. In the second session of the day, we really looked at what restorative practices is. And we looked probably at three key areas that allow you to check in on yourself about how well you're going as a restorative teacher. The first one is the idea of the restorative continuum. And what that does is it allows us to dispel that myth that restorative practices takes too long, because you need to get the questions out and work through them every time somebody does the wrong thing. Even a low-level behaviour infraction needs to have the student work through the questions over a long period of time. That's not what we want to do. So what we've got is at the informal end, we've got those affective statements, which we agreed was a very powerful place for you to start, but also a very simple place to start, because just chucking in a feeling is something that you can do to be able to get that message going. And we agreed that it seems so small and almost inconsequential, but there's just so many thousands of interactions at that end. And there's also immense power in having a staff of 40, 50, 60 people who are all committing to, at each of those in really affective statement and informal end infractions and issues that you deal with when you're working with young people. If we all agree that we can chuck in a feeling, then we very much, by method of Chinese water torture, teach your young people that their behaviour has an impact on others. And that's hugely important. We have those effective interactions for those one-on-ones when you need to have a chat with someone who's not getting it right in the classroom. And remembering just taking a Socratic approach and asking what happened, or what's going on here, or what's this all about, is a great way to maximise their engagement. And then we move along to small impromptu conferences, and they're really useful for your kryptonite as a teacher. And for me, that's those Year 6 girls. But for you, it could be Year 1 angry boys as they come back in after lunch. But it gives you a framework to be able to move quickly from past to present to future, which is really valuable. And for me, even with my kryptonite group, I was able to bring that down from about 45 minutes to 9 minutes by using restorative practices. We then have our large group interactions as we move towards the formal end of the continuum, which is your circle time. And I encourage you to get better at circles through practice. You'll notice we didn't do a lot of work on circles, because for me, the great work from running circles in your classroom comes when you just get to work. Give it a go. You'll get better at it, and your creativity will spike as a result of you being committed to inserting circles into your weekly program. And then we've got our formal conference at the end. So we haven't done our work around that. We're looking to do that in the subsequent days around restorative practices in a partnership that we're building at the moment. And but you can know that for when those serious moments come along, that Real Schools and myself are partners of yours, and we're there for you if you have something that really pointy end that we need to deal with. We also had the operating domains that a lot of people seemed really keen to look through, I guess, to use them as a frame that you can look through to look at your practice, and to be able to know that you can map your way back to that with box. So we have the with box, we have the to box where we've got the all firm but no fair, with a for box where we're all fair but no firm, and we've got the not box where we've really got a low expectation and a low level of support at play. We looked at our default mechanisms. Where do we go when we're not really focused in our practice and we let circumstances dictate the way we work? And then regardless of whether you slip out of the with box as somebody in an error of practice, or sometimes there'll be occasions when you'll need to leave the with box for some reason, it's always really important to use that frame as a way of mapping back. So deciding what are the actions that I need to take to be able to bring this situation back into the with box in a time appropriate way. And that makes that frame a really useful thing for you. And then you've also got those restorative questions that you can use. And remember that they're there not so much as a script for you, but as a guide. And they guide you through the process of past, present, future in any situation. Remember, there'll be some of those questions you will get really basic and fundamental answers at first. They might be a bit frustrating. But eventually you'll actually get to the point where you'll be able to engineer from your students more articulate and more emotionally intelligent responses, and that'll happen through continual exposure to those questions. In the third session of the day, we moved a little bit away from looking specifically at restorative practices and looked at some of the great teacher practice that's out there that fits under that restorative practices umbrella. So we looked at really understanding student behaviour and framed that lesson with our golden rule, which is that every behaviour has a meaning and a context. And if you can do that, then you'll take the high road. You'll start to really understand what's going on with student behaviour. You won't have to guess about what you're going to do in that circumstance because you'll come up with a really smart professional response. And your professional responses when you take that high road tend to lend themselves more to consistency. And but it's when you take the low road, when you make assumptions, you have to guess in the way that in the strategy that you're going to use, that we find our inconsistent reactions are at play, because they're always dependent on your own emotions and your own energy levels, and they will be inconsistent throughout the week and indeed throughout a day or throughout a term. So we've got to make sure that we're focused on taking that high road. We then looked at Joe Lang's t-shirts, which a lot of people seem to really get something from, so being able to identify in your students whether they're a look at me, a make me, a help me, or a you'll pay student, and then being able to match your practice in a really smart, creative way. And we also agreed that the best practice you can come up with when you're using Joe's t-shirts is deprivatise. That means share it, either with your own students or with your colleagues, to be able to refine it, and even better if you can do it with both. And that way you'll start to get some fantastic outcome by focusing on the process of your teaching. And then we looked at resilience and self-esteem, and how we're going to look for creative ways to be able to implement and to be able to embed resilience as a behaviour and a skill within your student group. And we're going to look at ways to genuinely foster a healthy self-esteem, not an overinflated self-esteem and not a really low self-esteem that erodes confidence, but a healthy self-esteem and an understanding that I'm ready to step into the next step into that window between too hard and too easy. And that's when you'll know you're doing really great work in that area. More importantly than that though, you'll see some footage that's on the screen at the moment, which is you working together. And that footage is demonstrative of something that needs to be a hallmark of the way we improve practice in your school moving forward. As I often tell people when we work in partnership, the gift in a real schools partnership is not in the professional learning. And as much as I hope you enjoyed the day and you got something out of it, and that right now you're doing something different as a result, the gift comes when you talk together. The gift is in the dialogue. And so if we're able to work together and to structure as a school to be able to provide opportunities for you to be able to sit in groups of 4 or 6 and have a good chat about very specific practice elements, then I really think you're going to make the most of the momentum that's possible from our professional learning day. And then also, of course, the last part of this video is your commitments and the things that you said as you walked out of the day that you were going to change, or the things that you were going to discard, or the new things that you're going to try as a result of the professional learning that you now have in restorative practices. And so I'm going to finish up now and make sure that you can have a look at that video, look at those videos of yourself. Don't get too embarrassed. And if you are watching this 6 months down the track and you haven't made that commitment, or it hasn't worked for you, it's not time to throw the hands in the air and to walk away. It's time to say, okay, I'm not going to say I tried that and it didn't work. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to recommit and get this going, because it's when you actually commit collectively that you'll really get some culture change in your school. And culture change is fantastic because it allows you to be more effective and less stressed at the same time. So good luck, Swan Hill Primary School. I'm really looking forward to working with you again soon. I hope this video is useful to you. I hope the next few minutes of 15-second video commitments aren't too embarrassing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Use the relationship to get somewhere.
I'm going to get the kids to trace their hand and write down the people that can help them.
I'm going to use the strategies learnt today to help me with a rather difficult 2 students in the classroom.
I'm going to do the chuck a feeling in with the, whatever it is, the small things that I have to say to some students.
I'm going to spend more time in the with operating domain, and when I go to the to, create better steps to go back to with. for.
I'm going to chuck in a feeling, which are called effective statements.
I'm going to use the preparation circle for our tough lessons after lunchtime.
I'm going to help my kids get to know each other better to stop any bullying.
What am I going to do? I'm going to look at the t-shirts, mainly the Make Me kids, and put a positive, with a caring statement as I leave.
If there's an issue, I'm going to try and repair the harm and build relationships.
I'm going to do a bit of priming, and I'm going to try and get to know the kid if they're having a bit of a problem.
I'm going to continue to build relationships and strengthen them.
I'm going to look more about every behaviour has, a meaning and context, and look at the t-shirt that they're wearing and how I'm going to deal with that.
I'm going to look at more what box I'm in the window and help students get to know each other better.
I'm going to implement circle time so that children have a voice and can talk about their feelings and how other people affect them.
I'd like to help my students build relationships with each other and to also know who they can go to in any tough times if they need to speak to someone.
I'm going to use the t-shirts to categorise the students so I can help them to better learn.
I'm going to use the past, present and future questions when a conflict arises to hopefully resolve it.
I'm going to meet with one of the classroom teachers that we work with the same child and use the information about the t-shirts to work with that child.
Good one.
I'm going to keep the window, the for, with, to and not in my mind, the back of my mind, and I'm also going to try the preparation and response circles.
I'm going to remember that we can only change behaviour by focusing on one thing at a time, and think about the t-shirts to think about what might be behind the kids' behaviour. And I also love the idea of doing checkouts as well as check-ins.
I am going to use my relationship building skills as a lever.
I like the windows because I think I'm a for person and I'd like to do a bit more with. And I like the t-shirts as a guide to future relationships.
I'm going to stay in the with box, and I'm going to try and reflect on what's happening and stop jumping to conclusions.
With the Make Me kids, I think I'm going to not just play a tennis match with them and just change what I'm saying to them and then just walk away and then come back to them later.
I'm going to prime positive behaviour with my kids.
To remember that every behaviour has a meaning or a context, I should say.
I'm going to concentrate more on promoting the do's instead of telling kids about the don'ts.
I'm going to continue to build positive relationships, especially with those of the Look at Me kids.
I'm going to try and identify the t-shirts and strategies to work with the students.
I'm going to try and avoid the power struggles with some of the difficult kids and implement the shirts. I like that.
I'm going to make apologies accountable and not just superficial.
I'm going to introduce a new routine on Monday morning that will hopefully set some expectations for Kyle at the start of the day and check in with him at the end of the lesson again to see how he's gone.
I'm going to take the high road and look for that meaning and understanding problem behaviours.